Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star Part 199 based on novel. So let's start. Bayou said blankly, after mother returned to the priest temple, she waited for you to come. However, I could not wait. She was already pregnant with me and her belly grew larger and larger with each coming day. After around 5 months, she could no longer hide it as she had a thin figure in the first place. She told her family everything about what happened between her and you. Back then, you used the name of Fengling and was a warrior from the warrior temple. She waited you for several months, but you never came, and she gave birth. While grandmother and grandfather were no longer alive, mother still had other relatives and her masters. Very soon, they asked the warrior temple and the demon hunt squad's mission tower about you. The answer they received was that a person like that did not exist. Back then, my mother's mind was close to collapsing. She was so helpless. No one helped her. Even when she died, she did not know what the person she had loved so deeply was actually the ruler of the demons, the demon god ranked first, the demon god emperor. Unable to find you, many people knew that my mother was probably tricked. They all persuaded her to not give birth to me, as that would ruin her entire life. However, my mother refused. She was just too kind-hearted. She was unwilling to abort me no matter what. She said that even if it would cost her her life, she would give birth to me. After 10 months of pregnancy and a day of pain, I was born. However, it was exactly because of my birth that brought ultimate pain and disaster to my mother. My element was darkness. Half of my bloodline had come from your devil dragon clan, inheriting your aura of darkness. Only then did mother realize that the man she had fallen in love with was actually a demon. Can you imagine just how great of an impact that was on her? And, because of my darkness element, it raised strong suspicion within the priest temple. They did not want me alive, because I was a descendant of a demon, and that the blood of demons flowed through my mother forbid them from taking me away no matter what. My mother guarded me with her life. In order for me to survive, she used her own blood to replace mine, using her own element to change him. She used her love to protect my life. In the end, I survived. I managed to live under mother's persistence out of love. However, my body was still destroyed to a certain degree. Not only did it lead to a frail youth, it was impossible for me to cultivate as well. After giving birth to me, my mother was already feeble, and then in order to save me, she used up the last bit of essence her body possessed. When she watched me make it through the most critical moment, she finally could not last any longer. She used her own blood to write a short letter. She placed it in an embroidered pouch and hung it around my neck. After I grew up, I read the blood letter multiple times. Back then, I did not understand what my mother was saying at all. Only after when you came and found me, brought me to the demons and told me about what happened between you and my mother did I understand what mother was saying. However, I never told you about the letter. I didn't want to. I wanted you to suffer from the torment and guilt for her kindness. It was you who made mother suffer. It was you who made her die so you. I hate you, I hate you. Due to becoming overly emotional, Bayou almost fainted in Long Houchen's arms. It was only because of Long Houchen's constant supply of gentle vitality that she managed to remain conscious. The demon god emperor said blankly, "Letter? A letter? Linguan's actually left a message for me? What is it? Yua, tell me, what did she say in her last moments?" Bayou's hand reached into her own collar while trembling and took out an extremely old embroidered pouch. She murmured, "I'll tell you. I'll tell you today." She carefully pulled out a white cloth from the embroidered pouch. It was very clear that the cloth was not square. It seemed like it had been ripped out from a piece of clothing. The blood on the white cloth had already become a purplish brown, clearly originating from many years ago. Bayou read it softly, "Yours, your and my child. I may be departing soon, but I've finally managed to protect her. No matter who you are only my Fengling, the Fengling who swept through the world. You may have fooled me, but I do not regret my love." Bang! Hearing that, the demon god emperor suddenly became pale white. His body swayed, only managing to remain upright by suddenly stabbing the devil dragon sword into the ground. His gaze was rather dumbfounded. It was filled with endless sorrow. In that moment, even the human powerhouses who opposed him could not help but feel a twinge of sympathy after hearing that story. Reading the contents of the letter, Bayou felt like she had been relieved of a great burden. Her expression eased up and she turned to her son. She carefully placed the letter back into the pouch around her neck and she said softly, "I was brought up by many people. My mother's death for me touched many of her masters from the priest temple. They silently took up the burden of raising me. Although I could not cultivate, they took extremely good care of me, watching me grow up with each passing day. They never told me about the tragedy that my mother went through before her death either, just because they hoped I could live happily. If it was possible, they would rather I never find out about that. After all, I don't have a vocation. I can't take part in the war against the demons. When I was 18, I met Xingyu. Although he was much older than me, every young girl revered a hero. He fell in love with me, while I also fell in love with him. Under the blessings of the masters of the priest temple, we married in the night temple, just inside the dragon-resisting mountain pass. If everything went smoothly, we would have become a happy couple. I never had any particular demands in life. I only hoped that the person who I loved who also loved me could be happy. However, just when I was most happy, you appeared." When she said that, Bayou looked at the demon god emperor nearby. Her voice was filled with resentment. "It was you who destroyed my life. You could sense your own aura in me, so you forcefully abducted me in a battle between the demons and the Alliance, bringing me back to your demon emperor palace. Back then, I thought I was done for, that I would never be able to see Xingyu again. After falling into your hands, I never thought I could return alive. I was already prepared that if you demons tried to rape me, I would die for Xingyu to remain pure. I held me hairpin, ready to take my own life at any time." Upon reaching there, Bayou raised her hand gently and touched Long Haochen's face. "If it weren't for you, perhaps I would have taken my own life the moment the demons had taken me away. I just happened to have found out about your existence back then. I hadn't even managed to tell your father. As a result, I was reluctant to die. There was no need to drag an innocent child down into the grave with me. Even if there was just the slightest possibility, I had to remain strong and survive, to give birth to you. Just like how my mother used her own life to protect me, I was willing to use my own life to protect you." "Mother," Long Haochen held his mother and also sobbed. "Afterwards, he told me that he was my father. He could sense the aura of his bloodline on me and he could see how I almost looked the same as my mother. From then on, he kept me in the demon's territory for almost a year. He treated me very well, often telling me about the stories that happened between him and my mother. However, because of his lies and deception, I grew up without a mother or a father. How could I forgive him? I was the wife of a divine knight from the Night Temple, yet I was the daughter of the demon god emperor. Back then, my emotions were extremely mixed. I had no idea how to face your father. Only afterwards, as my stomach gradually swelled up, did I suddenly realize that I could not give birth to my child within the demons no matter what. As a result, I threatened him with my own life, which was why he sent me back to the Alliance and why I was able to return. When I returned to the Alliance, I was close to birth. I had no idea how to face your father. One reason was because of my father that I rejected, but at the end of the day, was still my father. The other was because of my beloved husband. The hatred between the humans and demons had already reached a point of no return, so how was I supposed to face him? I did not face him. I was unable to imagine what I would do one day if my father killed my husband, or my husband killed my father. As a result, I could not run away. I could only choose to run. After giving birth to you in Odin Town, I decided to stay there. No matter how difficult it was there, I was unwilling to face everything in the outside world. I missed Xingyu, but I did not have the courage to stand before him and tell him I was the daughter of the demon god emperor. It was exactly because of the depth of my love that made me even more reluctant for him to go through this pain. As a result, I could only run away from him and never see him. That lasted for almost 10 years. When he came to find me, he had already become a divine knight. When I saw him again, I was unable to repress my emotions any longer, so I finally agreed to return with him, as well as tell him about your existence. Long Xingyu raised his head slowly and looked at Bayou and Long Haochen in confusion. However, when I saw you again, I didn't believe you. I could sense you were running away, but I believe that you were running away because of Haochen, because you had him with the demon god emperor. Can you imagine the pain, the suffering that I went through back then? However, no matter how painful it was, it could not rival my love for you. I just loved you too much, which was why I was willing for this pain to eat away my heart than to separate from you again. Back then, my heart gradually sank into darkness. Whenever I saw Haochen, the heart-wrenching pain would grow stronger and stronger. As a result, I made a despicable decision. I accepted you. I accepted Haochen. However, what I was thinking of back then was how to raise Haochen so he can fight against the demons. I always believed he was the demon god emperor's son. Even though I liked his perseverance and kind-heartedness very much, the pain in my heart prevented me from thinking calmly. As a result, I did my best to train Haochen so he could grow. When I found out that he was actually a scion of light, I had doubted for a moment whether he actually was my son or not. However, we had been separated for all these years and I was unable to understand why you wouldn't come find me with him if he was my son. As a result, I continued to be in pain. I trained Haochen for 2 years and finally I could no longer endure my inner pain. I was even afraid to meet his clear, pure eyes. I brought you back to the dragon-resistant mountain pass because of that. I thought that I would feel a little better if Haochen was not by my side, but I realized very soon that my pain remained and it was growing. So, I chose to run away. I was not in the dragon-resisting mountain pass most of the time, even leaving for years on end. I loved you deeply, but I could not help but cling onto everything I thought of inside. Afterwards, Haochen's talent gradually showed itself. He performed brilliantly in the Demon Hunt Squad selection, becoming a demon hunter. I gradually began to pay attention to him. I would even tail him and watch him complete missions. Sometimes, I would even help him secretly. At that time, the pain in my heart gradually turned into viciousness. I thought that with Haochen's physique as a scion of light, there would be one day when he would become especially powerful enough to threaten the demon god emperor. When that happened, they would face each other as father and son. It didn't matter who would die in the battle. My revenge would be complete. Reaching there, Long Xingyu closed his eyes painfully. Haochen, do you know? I knew when you were about to bring the bright glimmer of hope into the Star Demon Pagoda when you were in the Modu core city. I happened to be in Modu as well. Resentment prevented me from stopping you from taking the risk. After sensing you fall into a trap, I did not go rescue you either. Back then, I thought that it was over, that everything was over. The demon god emperor had killed his own son. But what I didn't know was that I had just watched my own son enter the belly of the beast. How ironic is that? I'm not worthy of being your father. I'm not worthy. After you died, I did feel relieved inside. I only felt like the thing that always weighed on my heart had vanished. As a result, I immediately returned to the dragon-resisting mountain pass. I thought that I could finally remain with you properly. However, when I truly faced her, I realized that your image constantly flashed through my head. I was afraid of telling her that you had already died to the demon god emperor. I did not want her to suffer from any more emotional stimulus. I thought that everything was over. You were a demon hunter, so there was nothing special about you remaining within the territory of the demons forever. However, my pain grew deeper and deeper. Every night, I would think of you smiling as you called me father. I would often jerk awake from my dreams. I began to study myself. I found that my past resentment and hatred had vanished, but what replaced it gradually became endless regret. No matter how many sins the demon god emperor had committed, you were innocent. I had actually sent a child who had always called my father and always trusted me into the belly of the enemy, facing death in the end. I was unable to forgive myself because of my actions. I even gave up on the opportunity to take part in the temple's great gathering. In those years, I was extremely depressed. I made no progress in my cultivation either. I could only wander about near the bottleneck. However, even if I had realized my mistakes, so what? I had already made the mistakes. You were already dead. Until that day, I suddenly heard you had appeared in the holy city with the bright glimmer of hope and even took part in the temple's great gathering. My emotions were extremely mixed back then. I didn't know whether I was supposed to be happy, glad, or in pain. However, I realized very soon that this time, I truly felt like a great burden had been relieved from me. Back then, I made up mind that no matter whose child you were, you would be my son as long as you called me father. I did my best to forget the past and atone for what I had done in the future, to treat you well and nurture you. However, I soon received news again that you had actually led the bright glimmer of hope into achieving first place in the temple's great gathering. Only then did I realize that you had actually surpassed me. After all, we reunited. I really was happy, very happy. When I saw you again, I really felt like I had forgotten about the past. I was so stupid. Over all these years, I had actually treated my own son as somebody else's. I had even come close to indirectly causing your death. Do you know how many tears I've shed when I saw the film that you created with CAIO? My remorse reached the limit. I regretted it so much that I had not taken action back then, making you suffer so much pain. If I had stopped you from taking the risk back then, all of this could have been avoided. If you were attacked by the demon god emperor and had fallen into a trap, I could have been standing by your side. At least I could have died with you. However, I didn't. I'm not worthy of being your father. When you died to the demon god emperor that time, I already lost this right. Reaching there, Long Xingyu exhaled deeply as tears covered his face. He glanced at Long Haochen and Bayou deeply, before suddenly speeding up without any prior signs, rushing towards the demon god emperor. Dense, golden-red flames immediately rose up from his body. This was the divine night of adjudication and trial burning the flames of his life. When Long Xingyu learned that Long Haochen really was his own son, he felt like his heart had shattered. He had absolutely no idea how he was supposed to face his wife, much less his own son. In that moment, he had already embraced death. Now that he charged at the demon god emperor with his full strength, he did not hope to kill the demon god emperor. Instead, he hoped to leave his life here. He had no idea how to atone for his sins. He only wanted to end it all with death. No, father! Long Haochen called out. However, even with his cultivation, he was unable to stop Long Xingyu anymore. In the moment Long Xingyu took action, he had already made up his mind. He had never moved so quickly before. The demon god emperor was still submerged in pain. He did not raise his head to look at Long Xingyu. However, even like that, it was impossible for Long Xingyu to harm him with his cultivation. A purple figure appeared in front of the demon god emperor. With a flash, Long Xingyu immediately rebounded away with speed even faster than before, like he had hit a huge pillow. Long Haochen quickly caught his father. The person who had stopped Long Xingyu was the moon demon god Agars. Long Haochen held Long Xingyu tightly, forcefully forcing back the flames of his life. He said sorrowfully, "Father, you can't die. You can't be like this. If you die, what's going to happen to me and mother? Everything's a misunderstanding. If you really want to atone for your sins, you have to keep living." Long Xingyu struggled free from Long Haochen's grasp. The powerful divine knight of adjudication and trial actually crouched down on the ground and sobbed painfully. This sight weighed on the hearts of the powerhouses of the temple unions heavily. Agars looked at Long Haochen calmly. "Now's not the time to cry. Long Haochen, you must make a decision right now. Do you know why I've suddenly changed my mind and turned against you with His Majesty and Visago?" Long Haochen's mind was currently in a mess. He shook his head instinctively. Agars said, "Because Austin Griffin's still alive. As long as he's alive, he's our enemy. I worked with you in hopes that my clansmen could integrate and become humans in the future, so they don't have to destroy. However, as long as Austin Griffin was alive, it would not just be my race that goes extinct. Nothing in this world would be able to survive. Long Houchen, you are currently the leader of the humans. You must make a decision, or it'll be too late. Everything will be destroyed. Do you understand? Long Houchen swayed slightly. Agars had awakened him by mentioning how he was the leader of the humans. He bit the tip of his tongue and the intense pain roused him from his sorrow. Yeah. He was currently the leader of the humans. No matter what situation he faced, no matter what circumstances he was in, he needed to think for humanity. Now, he had already defeated the demon god emperor, the moon demon god and the star demon god. It was the best opportunity for humanity to break out of this darkness. Even if the demon god emperor was his grandfather, he had to make a decision for the sake of humanity. Just how many human powerhouses had died to the demon god emperor? Recently, 2 titled demon hunt squads had joined that tally. All of the demon god slayers had died to the hands of the demon god emperor. More importantly, if he did not kill the demon god emperor, they would not be able to break out of this age of darkness. Perhaps, he would never get another opportunity like this. Thinking up to there, Long Houchen gradually calmed down. He looked at Agars with shining eyes and said seriously, "Senior Agars, I respect you because you made the correct decision before. You also helped me a lot in the past. It's possible to say that without your assistance, it would have been impossible for us to successfully be on the offensive in this holy war, nor would we have been able to achieve such results. However, you changed your mind because of Bayou, which I cannot agree on. Bayou is my companion, my brother. I don't believe it will do anything bad to me. You're just trying to frighten me by saying it will destroy the world." The moon demon god Agars smiled bitterly, "Only if I was trying to frighten you. If that's really the case, why would I do all this? Do you think that His Majesty will spare me after we get through all of this? It's still not too late for you to take action right now. Austin Griffin still hasn't awakened completely. Sure, it's your companion, your brother right now, but once it truly awakens, it is a representation of pure destruction. No one can stop it. Not even gods. I know you don't believe me. Currently, you possess the upper hand. His Majesty and I are not your opponent. However, can you give me a few minutes so I can tell you a story?" After a moment of thought, Long Houchen nodded, "Please tell me." Agars sighed deeply. The story starts 7,000 years ago in a realm extremely similar to the Shimordalu. Perhaps the creatures there were different, but the rulers of that world were also humans. The entire continent would regularly experience conflict, but it was basically all under the humans' control. In that realm, forests and lakes took up an extremely large area. It was even prettier than the Shimordalu right now. This continued until one day, the appearance of a powerful existence changed it all. This powerful existence was Austin Griffin. When it first appeared, it only had 3 heads. While it was not weak, it was just a slightly stronger magical beast in the eyes of the humans that it encountered. There were even humans who tried to kill it, but it managed to flee craftily. As time went on, Austin Griffin began to evolve slowly. Gradually, it gained a 4th and a 5th head. Because of the humans' attempts to hunt it down, it began to learn how to bide its time, hiding in the safe depths of the forest and slowly evolving its powers. When it appeared before the humans again, it already possessed 6 heads, which were 6 elements. It had already become rather powerful then. Regular human powerhouses were nowhere close to being its opponent. It began slaughtering humans in revenge. Despite its intelligence, it was still unable to take on the human powerhouses, while its cultivation continued to evolve at a steady pace. After 100 years, it finally grew its 8th head. At that time, it believed it was powerful enough, so it no longer hid anymore, fully displaying its terrifying power of destruction. Its terrifying strength made it almost invincible. After causing several massacres, it finally raised the attention of the humans. A large quantity of human powerhouses from that realm gathered together and began to hunt it down. Finally, they trapped it in a valley and engaged in an intense battle. The 8-headed Austin Griffin was very powerful, but there was just too many humans. After a battle that lasted for 2 days and 2 nights, Austin Griffin was finally defeated and heavily wounded. However, it had to be mentioned that with 8 heads, it was already rather powerful, so it managed to escape. Its escape also happened to be the biggest mistake that the humans of that realm had committed, leading to destruction of all life in that realm. After escaping, Austin Griffin engaged in secluded cultivation, using over another century to recover. It knew that it was not powerful enough to dominate the entire realm. As a result, it hid away and continued to cultivate until over another century later, it finally completed its final breakthrough, finally awakening. It reappeared on the continent, and this time, it became synonymous with destruction. Reaching there, fear flooded Agars' eyes. This story had been passed down among the demons. Although he had not been present when it happened, Agars still experienced deep fear even when it came from the memories of the first moon demon god. The demon god emperor lowered his head and said nothing. He let Agars continue his narration. There was destruction, endless destruction. When Austin Griffin appeared in that realm again, the entire continent faced a terrifying storm of destruction. Austin Griffin was just too powerful, so powerful that nothing could oppose it. Nothing could oppose its terrifying destruction. In less than a month, it had killed all of the creatures over a third of the continent. Whether it were plants, magical beasts, or regular creatures, they were all reduced to nothing before its aura of destruction. A third of the continent lost everything that once lived there, unable to recover ever again. The humans also experienced great fear. However, there were a tremendous number of human powerhouses in that realm back then. There were even over a dozen half-god existences who forcefully suppressed their cultivation from breaking through. It was possible to say that there were even more powerhouses in that realm than what the Shimordalu currently has. Just the powerhouses on par to the demon god emperor reached double digits. They had tried using their strongest powerhouses against Austin Griffin, but all of it failed. The Austin Griffin at that time had already become a symbol of invincibility, unable to fall in battle. Even true gods were not its opponent after awakening its ninth head. In order to stop its destruction, for the sake of the future of humanity, all of the human powerhouses gathered together. With the force of several tens of thousand people, they gathered the most valuable resources and wealth humanity had to offer. While Austin Griffin was destroying the continent, they used a month to create a great array specifically designed against Austin Griffin. On the day the array was completely, all the human powerhouses who created the array, over 10,000 of them, died. They used their essence blood to nurture the might of the array. The array was known as the God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens. It was also during that short month that Austin Griffin destroyed another third of the continent. Over half of all creatures in that realm had died to its terrifying aura of destruction. Finally, it arrived before the God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens. It was just too proud, so proud that it refused to believe anything in that realm could stand up against it. As a result, it finally ended up in the God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens, and it was finally sealed within the array, without any way of breaking out. Reaching there, Agars looked at Longhauchen deeply and said sternly, Austin Griffin's pride forbid it from being sealed like this. It was unwilling to accept its fate of just being sealed there for all of eternity. The God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens was composed of 72 divine tools, with 3 super-divine tools in the core of the array, forming a great cage. Unable to destroy the God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens after a desperate struggle, Austin Griffin did something to destroy all the remaining humans and creatures. It paid its own life as the price to drag the God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens down with him. It used its colossal body to violently ram against the array. Finally, in the moment the array shattered, its body was destroyed as well. The terrifying force of destruction became the most terrifying power of destruction, sweeping through the entire continent and completely killing all creatures on the continent in another terrifying calamity. The God-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens had completely shattered, and when it shattered, it split open the space of that realm, allowing the 72 divine tools that formed the array to pass through space in the form of 72 pillars that formed the cage, finally arriving in another realm. That realm was called the Shimordalu. The human powerhouses fell into an uproar when Agars reached there. The Age of Darkness had already lasted for over 6,000 years, but the humans did not even know the true origins of the demons. 6,000 years ago, why had they appeared on the Shimordalu, and why were they so powerful? Agars had finally provided an answer. Yes, you should have guessed it. When the 72 pillars arrived on Yoshim Mordalu, they were called the demon god pillars by the humans here, while the spirits of the 72 demon god pillars were the demon gods you speak of. In other words, His Majesty, my ancestor. Due to being a different realm and the 72 demon god pillars also possessed great power, they immediately began to give off an assimilating aura when they landed on the Shimordalu, leading to the demons now. As a result, if you really must decide on who is truly responsible for the 6,000 years of darkness that humanity had descended into it, it would be what you're holding in your right hand. It is it, the symbol of destruction and annihilation, the god of heavenly wrath, the nine-headed chimera, Austin Griffin. The moon demon god's elated voice made Long Houchen's mind shudder. It was not up to him whether he believed what Agars had said. He thought of Bayou's realm, that world of black and red, filled with destruction and foulness. He thought of how all the undead attacked Bayou with their full force like they were trying to eliminate a future issue. No matter how reluctant Long Houchen was in believing it, he knew that it was very likely that Agars was telling the truth. Otherwise, why would both he and the demon god emperor fear Bayou so much, and why would only Bayou's powers be effective against the 72 demon god pillars that could not be destroyed by anything else? All of this had been answered by Agars' story. No, that's impossible. When Bayou arrived in this world, I've already used my own blood to wash away its darkness element. It is no longer the Austin Griffin from before. It's my Bayou. Agars nodded. Yes, it's not like the Austin Griffin from before. The god of heavenly wrath from back then has already been destroyed. However, when it broke out of the god-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens, it had told us that it would return. It had 9 chances to undergo rebirth. It would return alive. I don't know how you brought it to this realm, but you have been raising a disaster for yourself. So what if you've washed away its darkness element? It's not based off darkness, but destruction. Do you understand its name, the god of heavenly wrath? It is the wrath of heaven, the destroyer of all realms. It exists for destruction and annihilation. According to the records of my race, Austin Griffin is the dark side of the Creator God, or the Creator God's twin in other words. Once it truly awakens, there is basically nothing that can destroy it. It's impossible for the god-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens to appear again. Ever since the array was destroyed, it became demon god pillars and is no longer complete. Moreover, a few of the demon god pillars have already been destroyed by Austin Griffin. Long Houchen, if you really want to consider for humanity and this realm, there is only one choice you can make now, and that is to completely destroy Austin Griffin before he's gained his final head. This is your only chance. Otherwise, once its head of destruction appears, it will turn back into the god of heavenly wrath and walk down the same path that Austin Griffin had once gone down in. The Shimordalu will be completely destroyed. It won't just be us demons and you humans. All the creatures, all the plants of this world, even all the stars visible to this world, will be destroyed by it in the end. Houchen, don't believe him. Long Tianyin stood forward. That's just the demons trying to frighten you. It's time for the age of darkness to end. What are you hesitating for? Long Houchen regained his focus from what Long Tianyin said. Although he was gradually believing Agars, he really hoped that it was all false. The moon demon god Agars smiled bitterly. I don't plan on leaving here alive today after saying all that. Long Houchen, if you don't believe me, you can kill all of us first, and then kill Austin Griffin. I just beg you that once I die you can protect my organization and my clansmen, so they can continue thriving in a place without the threat of the god of heavenly wrath. It's too late. It's all too late. The demon god emperor who had remained silent the entire time suddenly raised his head. In that short moment, he seemed to grow much older, while his eyes were dim as well. He drew the devil dragon sword from the ground. Agars, can't you tell that Austin Griffin's already awakened? Otherwise, how was it able to break out of our ceiling array of sun, moon, and star with just 8 heads? That was the core array of the god-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens. If the god of heavenly wrath hadn't awakened, we would have succeeded already. From the moment we fell down, the outcome was already decided. We can't stop it anymore. Austin Griffin's returned. Long Houchen could not help but become stunned from what the demon god emperor said. He subconsciously glanced at the 8-headed purplish gold Haoyue sword in his hand. With a gentle thrum from Long Haochen's hand, the purplish gold Haoyue sword turned into a purplish golden streak of light, rushing into the air. Thank you for your welcoming speech, Demon God Emperor, is it? You're just the leader of the remaining ants from before. What a fascinating story. It really is touching. I avoided disturbing the mood the entire time, yet you just have to call me out. How bad is that? Why must you force me out so soon? I originally wanted to see how Master would handle this situation. A cold voice appeared with a hint of wit and playfulness. The sky became filled with purplish golden light. In the next moment, the entire sky became a noble purple, but also a purple filled with an aura of destruction. A figure gradually emerged from where the purplish gold Haoyue sword had stopped in the air. He had long, purple hair and wore a set of magnificent, purple robes. His slender figure was extremely beautiful, but he had a pair of grey eyes filled with a deathly stillness. What was even more shocking was that his appearance was exactly the same as Long Haochen's. With his hands behind his back, the purple-haired young man descended from the sky. He smiled gently. Hello everyone. You don't welcome me, but I've still come. My name is Austin Griffin. Of course, everyone is welcome to call me Haoyue as well. You all love stories so much, so why don't I tell you one as well? Agars' expression became ashen at the sight of this purple-haired young man, while the demon god emperor's eyes flickered. He also seemed to have decided on something. In that moment, determination reappeared in his eyes. Long Haochen stared at the young man who descended from the sky blankly. He murmured, "You're Haoyue?" Haoyue smiled. Even his smile was very similar to Long Haochen's. His gaze towards Long Haochen was much more gentle. Of course, my master, I am your Haoyue. Your appearance is so perfect, so I surprisingly feel very proud to look the same as you. Long Haochen suddenly experienced an extremely bad omen. Haoyue's current attitude and tone was completely different from when he conversed with him in the past. It seemed like he was someone else altogether, as if his soul had been replaced. This had indirectly proven what Agars had said. Haoyue did not care what the humans or demons were thinking. He smiled. Don't worry, master. No matter when, I will never harm you. Who let you become my master? You also saved my life. All of you listen to my story. From now onwards, none of you are allowed to speak, okay? Just as he finished speaking, it felt like the sky had collapsed. A terrifying pressure immediately filled everyone's heart. Whether it was the humans or the demons, none of them were actually able to talk under this terrifying weight, just as it had said. I come from when the world was created. There seemed to be a huge explosion. Haoyue recalled his memories. His voice was very similar to Long Haochen's, except it was a little more floaty and less rooted. After the Big Bang, my consciousness appeared. Similar to me, another consciousness appeared at the same time. He was much more powerful than I was. As soon as he appeared, he possessed unmatched power. He was called Creation. Back then, I was just too weak, so I could only attach myself to him and watch him create the entire world. The realms were silently split open by him one by one, and he gradually granted life to these realms. There were plants and animals. The aura of life evolved and grew in each realm, allowing them to gain the aura of creation. Creation told me that his proudest work was a species. The species was called humans. Although humans were not powerful, they were a race which creation had granted a part of his power of creation, allowing these humans to create and learn. Creation said that one day, the humans would break free from the realms and bring the power of creation to places even further away. But for some reason, I really hated his tone and his creation. Even though he was much more powerful than me, his powers were exhausted very quickly in order to create the realms, until he perished in the end. He left behind many things that possessed his aura, and he had created countless other things as well. However, didn't he still perish in the end? The most despicable part about him was that before he died, he actually set down a seal on my body, sealing my soul so I could never reach his level. He even said that my nature was destruction, twin that accompanied him. He did not to destroy me, but he did not want me to destroy his creations either. How detestable. What a despicable person. However, how was it possible for my powers to be completely sealed up by him? I used my own methods to turn into a creature he created, using the special characteristic of growth that the creature possessed to gradually nullify the seal on me. Finally, I succeeded in a realm. I regained the powers that belonged to me. I regained my original body. I am the god of heavenly wrath, the nine-headed chimera, Griffin. Reaching there, Bayou's eyes were filled with pride. However, his supreme awe made the hearts of the human powerhouses weigh heavier and heavier, when they were supposed to be celebrating over breaking out of the Age of Darkness. The demon god emperor was terrifying enough, but this god of heavenly wrath that claimed to have accompanied the creator god was even more terrifying. What power did they have to oppose him? When my ninth head awakened, I discovered the feeling of destruction again. Back then, I thought nothing could stop me. Creation was already dead. I was the ruler of the entire world. All the realms would have to grovel at my feet. Didn't that bastard called creation was to create? Good, then I'll destroy all of his creations. I want to prove that I am stronger than him and more outstanding than him. However, never did I think that the humans created by creation would actually plot against me. Due to my carelessness and underestimate, I fell into the trap of those despicable humans. I was trapped by the god-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens. The array actually possessed a part of creation's power. No matter how I tried, I was unable to break free from the cage. Who am I? I am the destroyer of all realms, the god of heavenly wrath, the nine-headed chimera, Griffin. How could I be trapped by some measly humans? Did they really think they could kill me just like this? They were dreaming. How could the god of heavenly wrath admit defeat to these measly humans with his pride? As a result, I used up all my power to break out of the cage. In the end, I succeeded. No matter how creation's power subdued me, it was just a sliver of his aura that he had left behind, not him in person. He was dead. He had died long ago. Is there anyone else that can truly stop me? So what if I died once? I could undergo rebirth and be born again. With my great powers of destruction, even if I died, I had enough power to destroy that realm, turning it into a world of destruction that had no life. And even if I was reborn into a world like that, I could still evolve again and reabsorb the power of destruction. Once my ninth head regrew, all of the powers of destruction would descend once again, and I would be able to continue my noble ambition of destroying everything creation created. Until then, Bayou's face was filled with pride. However, the pride gradually turned into fury. He was extremely furious. However, never did I think that in that realm of fire of darkness, when all life and vegetation had been destroyed, undead creatures would actually appear. They didn't need food or water to survive like humans. They did not even need light. And they were actually filled with hatred towards me. They actually tried to kill the noble Griffin. Under their obstruction, my rebirths failed again and again, while my source power was rapidly exhausted during the rebirth process. I knew that if I died on my 9th rebirth, I would vanish from this world forever, just like creation. I refused to accept this. I utterly refused. Before long, I only had a last few rebirths left and I was attacked by those dirty undead again. I was covered in wounds. But it was also in that moment that a ray of hope enveloped my body, forcefully taking me to another world, a world filled with the aura of light. At that time, I thought I finally had a chance. However, who would have thought that from reborning too many times, I had become so weak, and because I had remained in that world of darkness for far too long, I was no longer accustomed to this power of light. I could feel my life fade away. I could sense death descend upon me. But at this moment, I saw a pair of eyes, a pair of pure eyes. That small humans began to drip his blood on me, using his blood to change what I was not accustomed to, letting me emerge from the darkness gradually, purging that wretched aura of darkness from me. In the end, it was converted to light. I possessed his bloodline. I actually experienced warmth and gentleness I had never experienced before. These feelings were very, very pleasant. Afterwards, I grew my second head, a head of light, while my original head remained as the fire element. However, that young man, my master, had entered desperate straits in order to change my element. Out of pure coincidence, I actually channeled my own noble bloodline into him, returning it to his body, and I formed a pact that even I did not know about with him as I experienced those feelings I had never experienced before. This was clearly the pact of the highest grade that creation had created, a blood pact. I don't know how that happened. Ever since I awakened and I recalled everything I went through with him, I really don't know why the noble me would make that decision. However, I'm still very grateful for him. After all, he had given me a chance of rebirth, and also gave me the opportunity to become Griffin. In the end, I returned. This young man who had given me this chance, which is you, my master, possesses the light god physique and is the wielder of the divine throne of eternity and creation. He is the chairman of the Temple Union, the divine knight of glory and leadership, Long Houchen. When my consciousness grew and took form with the ninth head, my body embedded all of the memories deep within my consciousness. I discovered in surprise that the gentleness, happiness, and joy you brought for me were not emotions that originally belonged to me. This feeling really is novel. As a result, my master, no matter who I destroy, what realm I destroy, you don't have to worry. I will never destroy you. I still hope that you can make me feel the same. I who have just reborn is actually afraid of something called loneliness because of you. It seemed like there really is a lot of things different from last time. I love you, my master. In the future, let's hold hands and travel creation's world. There will be a day when I turn all the realms into my world of creation, into domains that belong to me, the god of heavenly wrath, Griffin. You must find it very strange why I could evolve so quickly. You must thank my master for that as well. His growth would actually push me along. And during a few critical breakthroughs, he even protected me from the wretched undead, allowing me to evolve until my 8th head in the end. As for final awakening, I must thank you as well, my master. It was you who brought me into the domain of eternity left behind by creation, allowing me to find a seed that originally belonged to me, a seed of the tree of destruction. From a certain sense, the tree of destruction is an important clone of my soul. After finding the seed, I finally completed my last breakthrough and awakening after this period of cultivation. The ant, the demon god emperor, was right. If I hadn't awakened completely, it really would have been rather difficult to break out of their seal with just 8 heads. However, everything's become much easier now. There is no power that can stop me now. I must say, Master, the realm you inhabit is much weaker than the realm that created the god-slaying array of the 10 earths and 9 heavens. There really is nothing that can stop me in this realm. It feels fantastic to awaken. Thrum! A translucent ball of white light was emitted from Long Houchen's armor of eternity and creation, forcefully blocking Haoyue's pressure. At the same time, he possessed Haoyue's bloodline in the first place, so Haoyue's pressure on him was the lightest. Haoyue, will you be destroying our realm? Long Houchen asked solemnly. Haoyue smiled, I've said so much. Master, you should have understood a long time ago. I am the god of heavenly wrath, not the god of creation. Since I have awakened, I obviously have to start with something. What's so bad about destroying this realm? 3/4 of it is occupied by the demons you loathe so much anyway. Don't worry, I will destroy the demons first, and then the humans. Long Houchen's eyes were filled with pain. No, you're no longer my Haoyue. You're not. Haoyue actually nodded seriously, of course. Of course I'm not that Haoyue that would only follow everything you say. I am Griffin, the god of heavenly wrath. Didn't you hear what I just said? Before I awakened, my body had 8 consciousnesses. Each head possessed a consciousness of its own, but when I awakened, all of the consciousness would merge back together and all fall under my control. As a result, my 9th head is called the head of destruction, as well as the head of heavenly wrath. The current me has truly become the god of heavenly wrath. However, you don't have to worry. The feeling that you give to me remains, so I won't destroy you. But it'll only be you. In the future, I will take you with me to destroy the other worlds. Though, I can't be bothered with the other humans. I hate humans. Creation really could take pride in the humans he created. Even I, the great god of heavenly calamity, the nine-headed chimera, Austin Griffin, had been destroyed by the humans once. Though, that's the only time it'll ever happen. My master, you need to understand. Just watch as I destroy the demons that you hate the most first. Long Houchen, the demon god emperor's voice suddenly rang out. He had said that by forcefully enduring Austin Griffin's power. Long Houchen instinctively looked towards the demon god emperor. Their eyes met. He could see many things from the demon god emperor's eyes. The rippling from his soul indicated the demon god emperor's intentions. Long Houchen shuddered slightly and his emotions rippled slightly as well. He suddenly turned around and raised his sword of eternity and creation towards Haoyue. Haoyue, I was the one who brought you into this world. If you want to destroy the continent, you better do it over my dead body. As he said that, Long Houchen's wings flapped powerfully. He turned into a streak of light as he lunged at Haoyue. He was unable to imagine no matter what that his most trusted, most important companion would actually betray him, actually becoming the one trying to destroy this realm. Haoyue was actually even more powerful than the demon god emperor and the demons. Long Houchen still had a ray of hope in his heart. He did not believe Haoyue would lay his hands on him. Disdain appeared in Austin Griffin's eyes. My master, you still haven't understood, have you? Do you really think that you can defeat that demon god emperor Fengxiu with your powers alone? You can't even defeat him, so how can you oppose me? I respect you by calling you master, but do you really think you're my master? As he said that, Austin Griffin raised his left hand towards Long Houchen. Immediately, a terrifying aura appeared around Long Houchen, actually immobilizing him. Austin Griffin said coldly, I actually loathe the divine throne of eternity and creation you possess very much as well, because that thing possesses a sliver of creation's aura. In the past, if it weren't for the fact that you could borrow its power to protect me as I evolved to 8 heads, do you really think I would let you gain its recognition that easily? It's useless now. Allow me to destroy the aura that he left in this realm first. As he said that, Austin Griffin suddenly clutched his right hand and a ball of purple light shot towards Long Houchen like a bolt of lightning. It was also at this moment that the ground suddenly rumbled violently. The divine throne of doom and slaughter erupted from Long Xingyu's body, blowing away Haoyue's pressure. With a flash, he lunged before Long Houchen and grabbed him, using his back to block Haoyue's ball of purple light. Long Xingyu and Long Houchen looked at each other. What Long Houchen saw was a light of relief within his father's eyes. Long Xingyu's lips even curled slightly into a smile. Even with the protection of the divine throne of doom and slaughter, it was impossible for him to block Austin Griffin's attack, let alone the fact that the only reason why he had arrived by Long Houchen's side was because he had separated from the divine throne. He was completely unprotected. Under Austin Griffin's attack, only one fate awaited him. But in that moment, Long Xingyu happened to be smiling. He did not feel any regret at all. His heart was even filled with joy, because he could finally do something for his son, even if it meant throwing his life away. No! Long Houchen roared as the 9 purplish golden markings on his forehead suddenly lit up. It actually allowed him to break free from Haoyue's restraints immediately. He raised his 2 arms violently to huge his father, immediately turning around in the air. Long Xingyu's smile immediately froze. In the next moment, the purple ball of light landed viciously on Long Houchen's back. Boom! Long Houchen's body violently shook in the air. At the same time when he was hit, he had already pushed Long Xingyu away, pushing him back onto the ground. Without the support of the divine throne, he would not be able to break free from Haoyue's pressure again. The armor of eternity and creation flickered with intense white light, while the purple ball of light from Austin Griffin seemed to melt into it in a single moment. A violent rumbling was constantly emitted from Long Houchen's body. Finally, with a great boom, the armor of eternity and creation became covered in tiny cracks. If he continued to let the purple light that was filled with the aura of destruction run amok, the super-divine tool would probably be destroyed completely. This was more than enough to demonstrate Austin Griffin's strength. Just like what the moon demon god Agars had said, even real gods were not Austin Griffin's opponent. Long Houchen's body curled up. Including the sword of eternity and creation, The power of the divine throne of eternity and creation immediately turned back into 13 balls of light and was absorbed by Long Houchen. He did not want this supra-divine tool to be destroyed. Perhaps at a certain time, it would be his final hope. Long Houchen erupted at the same time when he stowed the divine throne away. He spread his arms and 2 streaks of purplish golden light quickly extended along his arms, turning into 2 heavy swords. They were completely created from his personal spiritual energy. Not only did this spiritual energy possess Haoyue's aura, it also possessed his most pure power of light. In that moment, they were the most powerful weapons Long Houchen could condense with spiritual energy. In the next moment, Long Houchen turned into a streak of purple light in the air, directly charging towards Haoyue. All the light on him had completely become purplish golden. The pressure from Haoyue was unable to influence him at all. That's right, in order to oppose Haoyue, Long Houchen completely ignited the power that belonged to Haoyue within him. Only by using Haoyue's bloodline could he oppose Haoyue. After Haoyue gained its 9th head, Long Houchen's strength had actually increased drastically as well due to the blood pact, but Austin Griffin had suppressed this increase. Now that Long Houchen ignited his own bloodline, this power seemed to be ignited as well, such that his aura was at least 70% similar to Austin Griffin's. With a flash, Long Houchen arrived before Austin Griffin like a bolt of lightning. He used the Eye of Brahm? Right from the start. A huge, purplish-golden vertical eye appeared in the air. Countless streaks of purplish-golden light gathered into one, blasting towards Austin Griffin. This video will end here.